Hello, and welcome to another episode of Double B's Garage. Today we're going to be working on the Murcielago. I am actually changing out the exhaust systems in this car. The factory system that is in here is over 100 pounds. It's a big metal box that sits in the back here underneath the heat shield, and then it's got two secondary catalytic converters. I removed the secondary cats, and I removed the big box, and I think it was like 106 pounds or 110 pounds that I took off of it. And I replaced it with just these little hoops. It's like the most simple exhaust you could think of, and it does the job, right? It reconnects the pipes together and gives you a very loud kind of F1 sound. In more research, what I found is that these cars actually benefit really well from having somewhat of an X-pipe. You need cross communication between the banks. And right now it's not getting that. It's just the standard hoop. So a company actually based in the town that I live in is called Built Industries, and Built Industries actually private labels their exhaust systems for a lot of Lamborghini dealers and a lot of other companies across the country. I'm just fortunate enough to know them, and the fact that they're local, I was able just to buy the exhaust right from them. He is an artist when it comes to welding. There's been a lot of research done on these exhausts. This is what it looks like, and you will see a lot more of this when I put it in, but you use the factory mounts on the exhaust like you would, like that came off the Lamborghini exhaust from factory. And then there's two cross pipes that go over from here to reach the other hoops, which again, I will have video of and you will see as we do it. A couple other pipes over here, but I wanted just to give you kind of an intro of what we'll be doing. I already took the engine lid off because on the Roadster, it opens this way and it's very difficult to access that area. I will take off this back panel here and then the little black, this guy right here, just to access the bolts to get this off. And then once that's off, I'll take the heat shield off, the additional heat shield, and then we will have access to the pipes that I was talking about. I'll try to mount the camera up here so you can kind of see as we're going along, but just wanted to give you a brief. This is a little heavier than obviously what I have in there now, but it is still huge weight reduction compared to what factory was. So we really appreciate you watching and giving us a look. All right, thanks. right, so we're gonna do, it is done, if you haven't noticed, throughout the videos. We use stainless steel hardware here. We ended up using anti-seize on here. You definitely wanna do that with stainless steel hardware to make sure that it doesn't gall. The humps, or the hoops or whatever that you saw before, doesn't allow the left bank to connect to the right bank. This does with the X-Pipe. And honestly, the X here, even though the weld is probably 3 inches big, there's only a small hole in here, but it definitely helps. It actually, it's almost like a knife. It cuts the air between the cavities, between the banks. Also, this helps, these little hoops right here, help when the pulses come through in the 6 of each side, it helps eliminate the high pressure and the low pressure side. So if there's a high pressure side here building from another one, it can actually go over here and end up in a low pressure side. So this is another kind of breather area that allows the exhaust to communicate. Not to mention, when we take off the factory exhaust and we put on the hoops that you saw before, we take off a bunch, but let's say in those hoops we have about 1.5 feet of tubing or exhaust. If you measure center of the pipe to center of the pipe. This exhaust right here with this system and then these pipes that come over and connect to the other down pipes, we're adding about 5.5 feet of tube per side. It's tough. It's a V12, right? It's different than an American V8, but in a lot of dyno testing and a lot of shows that you see, if you dyno an open V8 with open headers and you put just a simple 3-foot extension on the headers of the dyno, you will add sometimes a very significant amount of power. And in this case, I didn't like the hoops. In my opinion, you're eliminating too much exhaust. You're not letting each side of the motor communicate with each other, where this X-Pipe right here allows you to. And if you compare this to like a Fab Speed uses a stamped X. It's actually a restrictive X. It's not an open X that doesn't change the flow. If you think about water traveling through a pipe, if you have the right amount diameter of a hose with no restrictions, that flow, it doesn't matter the length of the tube, the flow will always continue to do the right thing. But when you put a stamp X in the middle of a system, you actually resist or restrict the flow, and the communication is not the same. But I'm about to do a cold start, and I wanted you guys to be able to see that. I will tell you, it has been a while since I started this car, but already it sounds better than just the hoops. I feel like the V12 needs more tubing. You can't just dump it right out through a straight pipe, almost like an open header system, and that's kind of like what it was. I mean, besides the V that comes down and exits out the tailpipe on the LP640, really, I think the previous version of the Murcielago is the same way, but it just It sounds different. It idles different. We will do a drive video before, before you see this video, so that'll be coming next. And I'd love to hear your impression of how you think it sounds. Well, thanks for staying and watching the video with a Lamborghini. I tried to fast forward through a lot of the install, just at least so you had a reference to what it looked like installing those exhaust systems into these cars. Taking the hoops out, as you saw, was very simple. And as I mentioned previously, the factory exhaust had already been removed. I really like the way it sounds. It's back up here. We just got done with the drive, which I will show you. I took my daughter out so she could hear it as well. She loved it. It's in hibernation now for a little while until the next drive, but I really love the way the exhaust sounds. It sounds great. It sounds very similar to the hoops, but as I mentioned before in the video, I feel like the extra piping along with the X-pipe really just helps the motor communicate and give it the appropriate amount of back pressure that's needed. I think both systems work. The system that I installed is twice as much, if not more, than just the hoops that were in the car. I'm not sure what he markets them for MSRP, but you can look up Built Industries on Instagram. I'll also put the information on there as well, so you can contact them if you'd like to get more inquiries or more information about an exhaust for your Mercy. He does do exhausts for other cars. I'm not sure what jigs he has. He does have several for different Lamborghinis, Aventadors, Murciélagos. I'm not sure if he does any with the Gallardo or the Huracan. But then they also make custom exhausts for other cars. I might actually have him at some point do a custom exhaust for my 993 Turbo. That's a 97, which you've seen in previous videos, but I had a tear in my CV joint boot on the last drive that we did last weekend, and it sprayed CV joint grease all over the inside of my wheel well, inside of the rim itself, and then on like the exhaust and the turbo. So I had to clean all that stuff off. It was disgusting, but that's all been cleaned. The CV joint will be replaced next week. And then, or not the CV joint, but the boot will be replaced next week so I can get it back in the car and that will be up and running. But just wanted to thank you guys for watching. After this, you will see the video of us driving the car, last maybe a minute or two, and then we'll sign off from there. So really appreciate the support. And again, if you like what you see, please click like and subscribe and tell others. We're trying to build the channel, and we'll continue to bring you more content as we get access to it, or as we have projects that we want to mess with. So thank you again. So it's Happy New Year. It's a Happy New Year's Day drive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Lambo.
She's still pretty cold. She's starting to get a little warmer.
Who's she?
The car. It's a girl.